Hello and welcome to another edition of 10 Minutes with Dr. Tysana. I am your host, Dr. Tysana Jones from MindWorks Collaborative. We at MindWorks Collaborative are committed to improving the equity and quality of special education programming by attracting, equipping, and retaining a diverse pipeline of special education leaders. This series was created to gather sage advice from leaders in education and practitioners on topics that can fast track special educators and our broader community to success, both inside and outside of the classroom. Our hope is for each episode to offer tangible and practical takeaways that can be applied to your personal and professional lives right away. This month, we are focusing on advocacy, and today's guest is Kim Riley, who will be talking to us about her journey as an advocate for children with disabilities. And our connection with Kim was in the same 4.0 cohort as Martrice and I as we were developing MindWorks Collaborative. She was developing her organization, and we both had this special education connection. So we immediately connected with one another, and she has a young person in her life that she was going to share about how she got connected. So Kim, will you please introduce yourself? And first of all, welcome to 10 Minutes with Ty, and introduce yourself and give us a brief overview of your work and how you've become an expert in this field.
I, like so many other people, became an expert because I became a mom. My son was diagnosed with autism in April of 2001. And so thus began our journey and just understanding just the injustices that youth with disabilities face, and just realizing that, it was just inconceivable that they were just kind of left to fend for themselves in so many areas. And so I just kind of rolled up my sleeve and decided to be the solution to the problems that I was experiencing, that I knew other families like ours were going through as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your work. And so could you talk about the importance of, yes, you jumped in, you rolled your sleeves up, you're committed. Talk about the importance of letting people know what's happening. You talked about injustices in the field and kids being left to fend for themselves. What are some of the things that you've been able to do to make sure that this is not the case, or how have you made it better?
Well, I launched a nonprofit. We were officially organized in 2019, but our work started in 2020. The nonprofit is called the Transition Academy, and our goal is to really be a catalyst for economic empowerment for youth with disabilities. A 2019 Bureau of Labor Statistics report found that only 19% of people with disabilities are employed. And that's compared to 66% of people without disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that alone tells you that there's so much work to do. And so as I looked at my son's, his transition process, I realized there were just so many opportunities that were not achieved. And so I think the frustration is that there's so much focus on compliance and not on like hands-on activities. And so when you have processes that are so cumbersome that, all you can do is get through them, and you lose sight of people, then something is really wrong. And so I just decided to form really the transition program that I wish was in place, which was just a hands-on, common sense, actionable process. And so we're working on pieces like bus tours to employment and higher education opportunities, working on walking families through the benefits process. We decided to reimagine and reinvent the transition fair concept. I had been to several, and you just kind of walk in and you go from booth to booth, and I felt like it was kind of like trick or treating. You just like go from
Right?
table to table, and you go home, and you got a bag full of flyers and brochures, and you're on your own to just call and screen each person and say,
Mm.
do you support youth with behavior issues? Do you have trained staff for them? And if they say yes, most of the time they have a waiting list. And and so I'm like, why are we individually calling people, and why can't we just go online like we do for everything else and kind of navigate the landscape and explore options as well? And so that became our tech piece, uh,
Okay.
a web-based college and career exploration platform. And so we are just working on just, I guess, righting some wrongs so that these youth have a chance to live the American dream like everyone else.
Absolutely. You said two things that stuck out to me, and the word that makes me cringe for everything is compliance. And when we're so focused, you said it, when we're so focused on just compliance, we miss all
Mhm.
these opportunities and we miss the kids.
Mhm.
Checking boxes is that's not it. It doesn't help anybody. 19% of our children with disabilities are unemployed. And they have skills, they have sense, they have things to offer. We can be learning so much, and we're missing out on all this opportunity, in addition to those people not being able to take care of themselves and being dependent upon systems that are not created for them. Their injustice from K through 12, it only gets worse as they're getting older. And so, how do we make sure that these processes and our young people, regardless of ability, are able to do better for themselves and really giving them the skills? I know we talked about right before COVID hit, the last time we saw each other, you were talking about some of the things you had been doing with your son, or maybe this was during COVID. You were saying some of the things you were doing with your son as far as some day-to-day stuff, washing clothes, folding clothes, cleaning, making his bed up. Like, those are the things that so many schools and places are not even set up to do for young people. And these are the things that allow them to be independent. So I'm excited to hear more about your app, and I want people to get with it. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to fly out to see you and spend some time. But this is the stuff, how do we make sure that our young people are getting what they need outside of K through 12 and outside of compliance purposes? Like, what does that really look like? So quickly, can we just one more thing? What are these advice pieces? You're a mom, you're like, okay, I'm doing this thing because this wasn't done well and right, and we can do better. But when you think about moms and families and dads early in the phase, when you think about transition, we don't sit those kids down and start talking about transition until they're 14 years old, right? And so what piece of advice would you offer to either parents and or teachers as we're thinking about transition and what that looks like and what the needs are? What could be the best thing? Think about the top three things, advice wise.
I would say that make sure that we look at transition as a joyful process. Um, Again, because of compliance, so often we're looking at processes, but if we could really look at it as a partnership with families, and we are going to together discover this your child's interest, and then connect it to their post-secondary path, that would be helpful. Just a change in perspective. Also, I we are recommending that people go to a website. It's called Griffin Hammis, GriffinHammis.com. They have a curriculum called Discovering Personal Genius, and
Mm.
that is built on the tenet that every person has innate talent and skills, and it's up to us to uncover them and connect them to their employment path. And so we're looking at really grounding our work in that tenet as well. And I think also just making sure that we are just intentional about connecting that child to an interest he or she has and not just taking whatever opportunity comes their way. It's infuriating when a child is, being given like some custodial task and then they don't like it. And maybe they have some language issues, and so they have a episode. And of course, we document the heck out of the behavior, but we never take the time to document what are their interests, what are their skills. We just we have lowered the bar to such a low level. And then when they have the audacity to not fit into this box that we place them in, then we want to document them. Translation, they now have a record that's going to follow them because there is no such thing as restorative justice with our youth.
Nope. You have given me so many nuggets, and I hope that folks recognize these nuggets are just so important. I hear humanity. Number one, the same level of humanity that we provide young people who are going to college. Yep. Discovery, what's your interest? What do you like? We've been talking about that with our young people since the 6th grade, easy, right? Maybe even earlier than that. We don't do that necessarily with children with more severe disabilities. And they have choices, they have interests, just like the rest of us. And we have to remember the humanity as we're dealing with processes and get away from that compliance piece, that joyful discovery. That just made my heart smile. Because again, that was like finding the place you fit. Everyone has something they love and like. If you sent me to a custodian job every day, you best believe I'm breaking brooms. I don't want to do that. So why would I force somebody else who doesn't want to do that and then tell them how terrible they are in sweeping? I don't want to be here. So I'm an active fool. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So that's going to stop me from getting anywhere else as well. So take care of that interest, discovery of interest. I'm definitely going to look into the Griffin-Hammes. So that intention, same thing. We have to have some principles around intention. What are the skills and desires and interests of our young people? And then again, that intentional interest. Everything comes humanity and being intentional of finding the interests of our young people, regardless of cognitive levels or length. Everyone has an interest, and we have to respect that and do more than compliance. That's it. Do more than compliance. Thank you so much, Kim. And I look forward. We're going to make sure that give us your info so we can make sure we're pubbing your app, the tech piece, all the things, because we want people to come to you and see you and such. I'll cut that part out. So thank you so much for coming to join us. Any last words?
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.